Am I the asshole for divorcing my husband during his mental health crisis? When I think about how everything began, it doesn't start with heartbreak or betrayal. It starts with routines, small ones, coffee and mismatched mugs, slow Saturday mornings, and silly arguments about whether to hang the toilet paper over or under. That's how it always is, isn't it? We remember the warmth before the storm because once the storm comes, the warmth feels like a lie. I met my husband when I was 22. We were both fresh out of university, raw with ambition and clueless about marriage. We built our life like stacking bricks, careful, steady, one shared dream at a time. The house came first, then the wedding, then our daughter, and somewhere along the way we forgot to keep building. Or maybe just one of us did. For years, everything seemed stable. Not thrilling, not dull. Just the quiet rhythm of a small family trying to make it work. But about 3 years ago, something in him began to fray. His job became unbearable, and he wore his exhaustion like a second skin. He stopped reading bedtime stories to our daughter, stopped fixing things around the house, and eventually stopped talking to me unless I initiated it. I tried to intervene early. I researched therapists, offered to go with him, even asked his brother to talk to him. But every time I brought it up, he'd brush it off like I was making a big deal out of nothing. His pride was a wall I couldn't climb. Then came the distance. Not the emotional kind, I was already used to that, but physical distance. He started working late, claimed he needed to drive alone to think, and one night he didn't come home until 3 in the morning. When he did, he smelled like someone else's perfume. Not sweet, not flowery, sharp like citrus and expensive desperation. He eventually told me about her. A woman from work. Said it wasn't physical, just emotional. Just emotional? As if that made it less of a betrayal. He described her like he used to describe me, his best friend, his safe space. And while he admitted to being confused, I was the one left standing in the wreckage, stunned and breathless. He claimed he needed time to think and healing space. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just asked him to help me get through the school term so our daughter wouldn't have to feel the shift mid-semester. I said we'd move out after that, make it easier for him to find clarity. And we did. I found an apartment closer to my job. It was small, nothing like the home we had poured years into, but it was light-filled, quiet, and ours. Our daughter and I made it cozy. She helped me paint her room mint green. We planted herbs on the tiny balcony. We were healing. Or at least I thought we were. But he'd visit once a month. Each time chaos followed. He'd storm through the door with complaints, strange energy, and endless tension. It felt like he drained the air from the room the moment he arrived. Our daughter would grow silent around him and I would tiptoe around every sentence. 6 months passed and nothing improved. If anything, it got worse. He was still dodgy, still claiming he didn't know what he wanted. I reached a point where I realized I didn't want to be an option. I didn't want to be the fallback. So I asked for a divorce. He exploded. He left in the middle of the night, drove back to our old house, and didn't speak to me for a week. When he finally did, it wasn't to apologize. It was to tell me that his coworker was pregnant. At first I was numb, then angry. Not because he was going to have a child with someone else, but because of the cowardice. He never truly ended things with me. He never gave me a clear decision. He dragged me through his confusion like I was just a bystander. He started messaging me, accusing me of being cold, of giving up. Said I was heartless for walking away when he was unwell. That I didn't try hard enough. That I had mentally checked out long ago. But he never once acknowledged how I begged him to get help. Never once admitted the damage his secrecy and indecision caused. I paid his bills for months even after moving. Part of me still felt responsible, like maybe he really couldn't help it. But each month I had to chase him down to be reimbursed. And when I did, he'd throw verbal darts, claiming I was trying to erase him from his daughter's life. He even suggested I should just get a new dad for her since I was so quick to move on. Eventually, I started keeping all his messages. Every insult, every guilt trip. I kept everything in writing. Just in case. Not out of spite, but because something inside me said I might need it someday. He never told our daughter about the baby. I gave him time. I gave him space. I gave him chance after chance. But I had to draw the line. I told him if he didn't do it before our meeting with the child welfare officer, I would. And I did. I also contacted her school counselor and informed them of what she was going through. I didn't want her to carry this weight alone. I couldn't always read her thoughts anymore. She had grown quieter, more private, but I wasn't going to let her suffer in silence. Months passed. We finalized most of the paperwork. I stopped paying his bills. We arranged shared custody, though he tried to backtrack on previous agreements. Our daughter started visiting him by choice. It was a fragile truce, but it existed. But his hostility toward me escalated. His messages became oozing with sarcasm, written like dramatic monologues, all wrapped in faux kindness. I ignored them, until we met in person to finalize the last batch of documents. That's when he told me his therapist said he needed closure. What he really meant was another chance to make it all about him. He ranted about the divorce, about how I'd torn apart our family, about how nothing in his life was what he asked for. The irony was, just a week earlier, he had moved in with the woman he claimed he barely knew. He never expected me to call him out. But I did. Calmly, clearly. I reminded him that he hadn't acknowledged my pain once. That I had done the hard work of picking up the pieces while he wallowed in confusion and secrets. He didn't like that. He started fishing for information about my dating life, through our daughter, of all people. When he found out I had gone on a few dates, he blew up. Accused me of replacing him. Said I was disrespectful. As if the rules didn't apply to him, only to me. And then came the moment I wasn't prepared for. He canceled a weekend visit with our daughter. Said he had something important come up. But she told me a different story. He told her he just needed space. But the next morning she came running into my room, eyes glowing. "Mom, look," she shouted, waving her phone. He had sent her pictures of her newborn sister. She was ecstatic. Laughing, crying, bouncing with joy. I smiled. I congratulated her. We talked about baby names and tiny hands and chubby cheeks. But inside I felt hollow. Not because he had another child, but because this baby marked the end of something I'd fought for with all my strength. I wasn't sad for him, I was grieving the version of me that used to need him. And suddenly it hit me, he had been my best friend once. And now I couldn't even text him without bracing for an attack. That night, after putting our daughter to bed, I sat on the balcony of our small apartment. I realized that I had done it, I had built a new life. One that didn't rely on his approval, his presence, or his chaos. I realized I left when he refused to come back.